On May 27, 2020, a pleading filed in a challenge against Governor Ralph Northam's sweeping executive lockdown order, and specifically seeking a temporary restraining order against the face covering mandate, stated, Maoist doctrinal guerrilla warfare proceeds through phases of organization, exploitation of vulnerabilities, and decision. Citing FMFRP 12-18, Mao Zedong on guerrilla warfare, dated April 5, 1989, obsolete as a source reference. The pleading went on to state that Che Guevara had observed that the revolution is not an apple that falls when it is ripe, you have to make it fall. And that tactical leaders are well aware that leaders employ enemy-oriented attacks to destroy enemy formations and their capabilities. Destruction results in an enemy unit, soldiers and their equipment, that is no longer able to fight. Not everything has to be destroyed for the force-oriented attack offense to be successful. It is usually enough to focus on an enemy capability or unit cohesion. These attacks are best employed against an enemy vulnerability. Once destruction occurs, a window of opportunity opens. It is up to the leader to take advantage of an unbalanced enemy through local and general exploitations and pursuit. These words were directly quoted from FM 3-21.8, the Infantry Rifle Platoon and Squad, Chapter 1, Paragraph 201, page 1-39, dated March 28, 2007. The pleading went on to quote from another Military Field Manual, FM 7-8, the Infantry Rifle Platoon and Squad, obsolete, Chapter 1-7F, that attacks during limited visibility achieve surprise, avoid heavy losses, cause panic in a weak and disorganized enemy, exploit success, maintain momentum, and keep pressure on the enemy. Platoons and squads attack whenever possible during limited visibility. Darkness, fog, heavy rain, falling snow, and the smoke and dust of combat create limited visibility conditions that allow infantry platoons and squads to move undetected. Although these military doctrinal precepts correspond uncannily with contemporaneous events that find national protests and riots being quelled by law enforcement and National Guard units nationwide, equipped with riot protection gear and deploying riot agents such as tear gas and rubber bullets, there were no signs of civil unrest when the challenge against the facial coverings order was filed on May 27th. But the seeming prophetic import of that court filing were not entirely coincidental, because the author of the pleadings was Major Mike Webb, a trained military intelligence analyst with strategic counterintelligence experience, biological warfare planning, and counterinsurgency and counterterrorism. And the military intelligence methodology proceeds from the basic assumption that the best predictor of the future is past events. Information available in the open source in official government documents confirm that the Chinese government never committed itself to the total lockdown orders urged by public health leaders like Dr. Anthony Fauci or implemented by state governors like Dr. Ralph Northam. But the widely accepted assumption that they did commit to a nationwide lockdown to contain a public health emergency of international concern served to validate the prescription as valid and necessary for other nations around the world. But it also fits the description of a military operational tactic that is generally known as a feint, compelling your enemy to deploy his reserve and render him unable to respond to other contingencies or deprive him of a reinforcement capacity. The direct and proximate result of Order 53 and its progeny was the catapulting of unemployment claims from the previous week of 2,706 claims to 46,885, which is expected to double by the summer months, as reported by Laura Peters in The Business Leader, and contributing nationwide to what Mike Allen of Axios described as the equivalent of a Hurricane Katrina in every state. Essentially, the second phase in a Maoist doctrinal revolution. In the February 24th World Health Organization Joint Mission Report, it was made perfectly clear that the Chinese government never committed to a lockdown of the entire nation. Strongly suggested that the pathogen described as a novel coronavirus consistently in the press, like it had a publicist, was not a zoonotic evolution at all, but rather a manufactured derivative from the SARS virus that had created an outbreak in Hong Kong in 2003, and that the biological agent not only was most lethal to the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions, especially when confined for extended periods in restricted locations like apartment complexes and nursing homes, but that it was directed against the political opposition in the largest urban metropolis in the central mainland of China, finding most of the victims in an urban oasis to be not city dwellers, but farmers in the outlying areas. Hidden in open view in the World Health Organization preliminary report, dated January 23rd, 2020, was the fact that the pandemic pathogen had displayed a variant pattern in migration that somehow not only escaped the lockdown in the Hubei province, but also appeared to engage in an evasive pattern of flight, avoiding the top 15 destinations from the Wuhan airport and traveling rather to South Korea, China's avowed enemy, and also Iran, the trading partner of South Korea since 2016. It continued that pattern of evasion even upon entry into the borders of the United States, choosing, rather than Los Angeles, when traveling from the west, Seattle, and when traveling from the east, Logan over JFK in New York. To a defense intelligence communications analyst, it is of significance that the World Health Organization joint report was not made available in the public domain until April 27th on the COVID-19 timeline, and that it repeated 3 times that it was the elderly residing in nursing homes, who represent more than half of the fatalities to date in Virginia, who would be at the highest risk. And today, Henrico County leads the nation on nursing home fatalities, a clear warning that the nation's only physician serving as a state governor entirely ignored. To defense intelligence analysts, it is significant that in his executive order mandating facial coverings and not even surgical masks, that 3 times the governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, repeated that a simple bandana, the signature item of apparel in the Antifa uniform, will provide sufficient protection. Protection, it is obvious, will not prevent debilitating effects from riot agents like tear gas, for which the smallest deployment particle is 6 times larger than the SARS-CoV-2 particle in its largest presentation. A military tactic commonly described as a ruse and often combined with the employment of a feint in strategic operations and maneuver. To a defense intelligence analyst, it is of significant value that proponents against ending the lockdown were the very ones who were first motivated by the sensationalization of a tragic event to commence protests disregarding national guidance on social distancing and validated intelligence that enabled Major Mike Webb to predict that a vacillating Governor Northam would declare a state of emergency over an hour before he did so. My name is Major Mike Webb, and I am running for U.S. Congress with liberty, honor, and excellence. By God, we shall make America great again. Honest. This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.